and add more silverware and be the most decorated club in the country, I'm quite happy to be able to deal with that.
Errol, sorry to interrupt. I could listen to you for the best part of a day's job. It's fantastic, and you're very eloquent. I just got one question to ask that I don't think you've really addressed.
Go on.
Could it also be that maybe you guys just don't have the pulling power anymore? Deep the question, deep it, and then could you answer, please?
In what sense? For who are we talking about here, by the way? Trent or just in general?
Well, from as an outsider looking in, it was Salah's phone that focused on Trent, but I could almost feel Salah feeling like Trent as well, in the sense of he could be gone. So I'm just looking at your club, and I'm thinking that you've got 3 players. 1 is definitely going. 2 we are really unsure of. You're about to win the Premier League. What isn't there to love? What isn't there to stay for? Apart from the fact that maybe you guys are not attractive anymore. And
it's a good question. It's a good question. Casado, Lavia, the chat saying a few of us.
No, I know. I can see the chat. There.
Remember him?
I think
Zubamendi.
I think Zubamendi hasn't gone anywhere. In all fairness,
He didn't get Liverpool, did he?
Chill. He knows.
Like the fact of the matter is, though, the ones that we did sign are going to be with us to win a Premier League this season. So the business that we did do over the last 2 years has still been fit for purpose.
Yeah,
whether you think that's pull or not, we have to recruit footballers, and the footballers we brought in have been good enough to win us the big honours, respectfully. So you can all have your names.
3 footballers go. Are you not going to riot and get your owners out if they all walk on a free?
Come on, lad. What are we doing? Let's
I'm serious.
No, I know.
Owners need to go.
But okay, so, and again, I would throw this back to you in the most humblest of ways. If Arsenal won the Champions League this year but lost Saka, Saliba, and Ethan, are your fan base going to riot and kick out your owners?
They should,
because they're useless. Our fan base are useless at United.
Then why do you expect my fan base to act any better after just winning the Premier League?
Because that's what should happen. If you win the Premier League, your owners and
whether or not we was going to win the thing is, though, Potts, whether we was going to win the Premier League or not, we started this season knowing what was at stake with those 3.
Would you not agree, though?
So nothing's changed.
It's even worse then. That those 3 have been factually, evidentially correct to win you a league, and the 3 of them are going to waltz along and go, cheers then, bye. That for me is worse. Your owners on board are like, well, we've just won with them 3 and they've gone. Now we've got to start again. Who let that happen?
I agree. I think it is worse. I genuinely do think it is worse. But again, my honest opinion is I see 2 out of the 3 staying. Categorically, I genuinely do. Purely on the basis that
and just signing Isak on top
one stays.
I don't think, again, I'm not convinced that the Isak thing happens. I think what happens is, again, and it comes down to obviously which player goes. But if it was like, or even if it was 2, if Salah and Trent left, say for example, the fan base would have to, obviously we get the Premier League, but the fan base would have to see, I think most fans have accepted that Virg is probably the most important piece out of the 3 to stay. He has to be the one to stay, bare minimum. After that, if Salah was to go, but we was to go out and buy somebody like an Isak, I think that would appease the fans enough to say, okay, we've lost one heavyweight, we've brought in another one, and there's still other pieces of the pie that need to then be accumulated over the course of the transfer window, and we'll see what they do. But they're good. Most of the fans, it's like most of the fans are going to be on a high anyway because we've just won the Premier League. So it's going to be very difficult to differentiate between where we're currently at and where we want to go. We have to then import that trust back into Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, the manager, Arnie Slot, his team to say, right, what players do you want? Because ultimately he's still been operating with a largely on the face and on the surface Jurgen Klopp side. So I'm not I'm not made up and I'm not happy that we found ourselves in this situation. But does it make it a little bit easier that we're going to win a Premier League? And that is enough of a pull. If we lose the Trents, and I think we've got a Bradley who would step up, different, but would step up in a different capacity. I think there would be a way for other teams or other players that you go and speak to that are young, up and coming, because you're forgetting Liverpool's model. You might have put out those names there, and I agree. Those names are from a Class A category of the up and coming talent. But Liverpool will look at those two bands, Class A and Class B, and say, we'll try and cherry pick the ones that we want from those classes. There'll be some teams that are like Real Madrid that have beat us in the past, and there'll be some projects like Chelsea where they just stockpile players. But at this moment in time, Real Madrid aren't going to go and stockpile a new midfield because they've just done that in the last 2 years. Chelsea isn't a much more attractive proposition than us. London, maybe, but Chelsea's not. So when it comes to getting those players from Class A and Class B that are up and coming, because that fits the model that FSG wants, I still think there is a level of pull there. When Liverpool say, we're in the Champions League next year, we've got a Premier League title, Slot's building his team, you've seen the style of football that he goes with, and now you can go and follow in the footsteps of a Mohamed Salah, a Trent Alexander-Arnold, or a Virgil van Dijk. I still think there's a level of pull to that. I'm not saying that we go out and do Galactico-style business, because we don't. But to sit there and say that Liverpool aren't going to have any pull, like, we've got to have serious conversations if we're going to talk about it. Otherwise, there's no point entertaining it.
Yeah, but Errol, I think it's still very small mentality of what you're saying there, because I would expect if my team was in the position your team's in, you're talking about players that might be available. Okay. If you have this pool that Deji is talking about, I think this was what Deji means. You could go to any club and say, right, I want him, him, and him. What we used to see with Man U back in the day. That's what we
never operated like in my lifetime. Mate.
That's because you've never had that pull in my lifetime. I think Deji's right.
In your lifetime, we've never had that pull.
No, not the pull that Man U had in the early 90s. And I'm not saying that we.
I'm not sitting here saying that we have though. So I don't know why you're trying to like hit me with a stick over it.
Yeah, but you're kind of just going about, oh, if we did this, if we sold them the project, this, that, and the other. All Man U had to say, and I hate Man U. All they had to say was we're Man U. That's all they had to say. Why can't you just say we're Liverpool?
But because that's not how we've ever operated. So why would we try and be something?
Yeah, because you've never operated like that, because you've never had that pull.
Okay, and again, that's fine. Are we still the most decorated club in England?
So even being the most decorated club in England, you still can't do, and it hurts me to even let these words come out of my mouth, what Man U were doing. The way they would just walk in, get a Cantona, get whoever they wanted.
But that's fine. But at the end of the day, Man U have been doing that post-Fergie for the best part of 10 years, and we're producing the goods as a byproduct of being Man U. So you're torn between a rock and a hard place. You can be damned if you do, you can be damned if you don't. I'm not saying that our model's perfect and their model's far from perfect either. But
we're not talking about, you're missing Deji's question. Deji's talking about the attractiveness.
So Liverpool don't.
Deji, am I right in what I'm asking here?
Wolfie, you're 100% spot on. I've been
Errol, I don't think you can answer this question without these two being pernickety at it. We don't know, and I've been completely going at you all season, but we don't know. Look, it's getting very, very close. The doomsday clock for Liverpool is at 2 minutes to 12 at the moment. There may be something that's pulled out of the bag. We may see a Salatin and say, right, actually, I'm staying. I actually think, regardless of if they stay or go, you're still going to have to spend money this season, because you're going to have to buy replacements for these 2-3 players. And we talk about Bradley coming in and doing the job for Trent. That's a lot of pressure to put on this lad's back, considering what Trent's achieved at Liverpool. So I feel like this season, you've got to make sure you don't end up doing what United have done. And I mean, in the sense of winning something so incredible, and then just completely falling off and winning a cup here, doing bits.
But I don't think we will.
I'm not saying you will. But I'm just saying this is why you need to make sure this season, regardless of whether all three stay or go, we kind of know Trent's off. You've got to do the signings this season to make sure you're never in this situation again. And I don't think the owners can ever allow this to happen again. Yeah, we can have one player where you sort of say might be off at the end of the season, but 3 players of that magnitude who have been the biggest part of Liverpool's success, that shouldn't be allowed to happen at any club. So I feel like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But This can't happen again.
Edwards and Hughes need to make sure that doesn't happen again now.
Yeah, I know, and I agree. I think that the three of them being all out at the same time is pure.
And Kenyatta next year, by the way, which me and LB realised.
Kenyatta next
year.
Has he got 2 years left on his contract?
Kenyatta got 1 year left.
1 year in the summer.
Okay, 1 year in the summer. Again, that's fine. He hasn't signed a new one yet because he wants to see who's coming in. That's absolutely fine. Again, I think it boils down to me of being a case of I can't make FSG change their model, me on my ones. Hundreds of Liverpool fans, thousands of Liverpool fans, thousands of fans that turn up at the ground won't make FSG change their model by just spitting our dummy out of the pram. Unfortunately,
but Errol, money's not making players change their mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Trent offered more money to stay at Liverpool than he was offered to go to Real?
All speculation again, and that's just me being like honest. There's no cat.
But if it's true, that's quite damning.
But with Trent, I've had this happen to me. I've had my heart broken twice by Real Madrid. When Real Madrid come calling, mate, it's very, very hard to turn Real Madrid down. It happens they do it to every club. And if they do this,
we're going to find out.
Of course you will. That's just what Real Madrid do. You talk about United doing it in the noughties and in the 90s. Real Madrid have done this for 50 years. It's what they do.
Yeah.
Once they come,
and that's certain models. And again, that's a very Real Madrid model. So once you become that,
Errol, let me just let Deji and LB go 1 sec. Dej, big up to you. LB, big up to you. Thanks for coming on, man. We'll see you next time. Sorry, go on, Errol.
No, I'm just saying, like, once that becomes your brand and your model, that's just the way that it is. But the point that I was making was, FSG won't kind of divert to go and say we're going to be the new Real Madrid or we're going to be the new Manchester United, because that ultimately has never been their model. So whether we like it or not, we have to not necessarily accept it, but we have to hope that they then do buy and recruit in the smartest bit of business. Up until these contract situations, you can moan about the acquisitions, but you can't really moan about the squad management from FSG. They've done quite well up until a point. We got rid of Henderson when his legs fell off. We got rid of Fabinho when his legs had fell off. We got rid of Mane at the right time because he's never been able to prove or show that, that the buy-in days, he still had it and he still had that spark and he could still do it for another 2-3 seasons in the way that Salah's gone on to do it. So, okay, we've now taken a hit because the three that are still here, especially Trent in his prime, but Virg and Salah are still producing at the highest level. They now have to adjust their model and we're hoping, the one thing we are putting the pressure on and hoping is they adjust their model to keep hold of them for another 2-3 seasons. A couple of years ago, irrespective of what the level would have been, they'd have just been gone out the door.
Yeah, but Errol,
because you're not in part of the model, you're not part of the plan.
Errol, I was just going to say, I kind of disagree a bit with what you said there with Henderson, Fabinho, etc. I think you sold them too late. I think that midfield aged by a year. I'm saying a year because I think they're gone.
So let me but to say that though, you say if we sold them too late a year, the year that by your logic to sell them, we went to the last day of the season in every single competition, Wolfie, with those players.
Did you win it?
We won 2 out of the 4 cups, lad. Come on, what are we doing?
Okay, but do you not think they should have gone a year earlier? Do you not think that midfield rebuild needed to happen?
That I've just said. That midfield, you build a team, and that team is set and with an objective to go and win things. We was in the last day of every single competition with the possibility of winning it all, bro.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I would have expected already in your team their next one coming through. Do you know what I mean? You would have already recruited behind it.
Okay.
Do you get me? Rather than that cliff edge moment that you ended up having.
Again, but that's what I said to you. The squad management. I'm saying you can criticize the acquisitions. So what you're saying is right. So we're both saying the right thing. Yeah. You're saying about the acquisitions coming in, and I agree with you. You could criticize the timing of getting those replacements wasn't ideal. But the management of the players that we currently had in that crop to keep them together for as long as we did and then release them when we did was probably at the right time.
I think it was the right time for Fabinho. I think you can maybe argue Jordan Henderson, but I don't see it as being personally a massive thing about those two. But But I might have missed this, so I apologise if you've already answered this question, Errol. But do you genuinely think, with 3 months to go or just less than that, that Salah and Van Dijk are staying at Liverpool? Is that your mindset? Do you genuinely think that's going to happen?
I've said I've kind of put out my feelings that 2 out of the 3 stay. Now, bare minimum, a lot of people, again, not necessarily myself, but a lot of people have said that Virgil should stay. And again, to be completely transparent, I even said this time last year that I'd be letting Salah go last summer, sell him, let him go to Saudi.
You said on here.
I said let him go to Saudi, get us the 18 mil, get us the money, and he can go. Obviously, he's been irreplaceable this year. He's had a generational year. Like you can't kind of not give him his credit and his flowers, and it shut me up. Do you know what I mean? But the reality is, we have to now keep hold of them, because in terms of assets and in terms of trying to build a team, we still need to be able to facilitate having the spine of the team while a new crop of players come in under slot.
Do you give FSG credit, Errol, keeping Salah in?
Not necessarily credit, because he was under contract, so they chose not. Did we get an offer? Did Saudi come back in the summer? I'm not sure if they did.
170 or whatever it was, wasn't it?
Then yeah, I'd give them credit for keeping hold of him now. Because what's that going to be worth? We've cleaned up 100 mil from the Champions League this season. We're going to clean up 130 mil from the Premier League if we go on to win it. So, he's paid for himself by staying here.